Starting with this slide with this graph, 46% of users spend 5 to 6 hours daily on their smartphones. And there are people who spend even more, 7 hours or more daily on their smartphones. So smartphones have really taken our lives. And if we compare the mobile web versus the applications, mobile applications, around 87% of people, 87% of time, basically users spend time on their apps instead of mobile web. And there are different app types that we can develop for smartphones. First of all, we can briefly touch progressive web apps. These are just web apps, but optimized more for smartphones to basically offer more features like native apps and to be faster to run on mobile devices. Similarly, we have another development framework. We can basically use different technologies like Xamarin, React Native, and Flutter to build cross-platform mobile apps. These are essentially native apps, but just built through some cross-platform framework. And we get some benefits with this, like sharing business logic and even most UI elements across different platforms. And when I say platform, I usually think about iOS and Android here. As those two platforms have the major share in the smartphone industry. And then we have native apps. These are usual apps developed through native development tools like Xcode or similar tools on Android, with the iOS and Android SDKs built to basically utilize best of hardware capabilities and deliver engaging user experiences. If you go into detail for progressive web apps, progressive web apps basically is launched by Google itself, and they're more optimized or more common on Android devices than iOS. And Google also has a tool which can be used to basically see if your website or if your web app is optimized or to be called a progressive web app, or if it fulfills all the requirements, all the required things to be published as a progressive web app. The first thing that it requires basically is to be able to load faster. It should be optimized for the smartphones. It should be instant, load instantly. We have this example on the right of the Starbucks app, which is built as a progressive web app. It has everything like a normal Starbucks native app does. Users can order from the app. They can see all the menu. They can sign up or log in. Everything can be done like their native app does. The next thing progressive web apps should do, they should feel integrated. And when I say integrated, it means that they should feel like a native app. Users should be able to somehow install them or put them on their home screen. User should be able to see the icon, specific icon of the app. And there's a way to do that. There's a thing called service worker, which needs to be implemented to basically do some of the things which native apps do. In addition to that, we have to implement manifest to basically add icons and app names, things like that. And on Android, if you open a web app, a progressive web app, it will instantly show you on the browser a pop-up to basically add that app to your home screen. And it will be a shortcut which will be added to your home screen, but once you tap that shortcut, it will just open like a normal app, although it will be in a web view, and you will be still looking at a website, but it won't show you the header and footer the normal browser does. So the progressive web apps should feel integrated. They should be reliable, as I already said, that we need to implement something called a service worker, which can basically help you access cache data and cached web app as well. So your complete app can be basically accessed in an offline mode. Even if you disconnect from the internet, it should still load. I'm sorry, can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear and we can see you.
Yes.
Okay, that's cool. So progressive web apps should be reliable, even if there's no connection or low internet connection, low connectivity, they should still work as normal native apps do. And the last thing, progressive web apps should be engaging like normal native apps. And the best thing for engagement is push notifications. And progressive web apps should have this feature like normal apps. The only downside here is that this push notifications feature is only available for Android apps. It doesn't work for iOS at the moment. So this was progressive web apps. We can now briefly discuss cross-platform apps. These are basically native apps built through some cross-platform framework to basically share UI and business logic. It provides basically the complete native app experience. You won't feel any difference when using a cross-platform app versus a actual native app built with native tools. It has similar access to hardware resources like a native app does. And there is a benefit that you can share code between the platforms, and you can share business logic as well as the UI elements or the UI part of the app, which basically makes it efficient to develop on multiple platforms with a single code base. And that makes me to go to the next point, which is low maintenance. As we have single code base for business logic and most UI elements, these apps are low maintenance as compared to the native apps. There's one downside in some cases that we notice on cross-platform apps. Load time is more compared to native apps, and the reason behind that is that these cross-platform apps have different SDKs, and sometimes they need to translate the code to the underlying native code on the runtime, and it can feel a little laggy. This has improved a lot recently, and you actually don't feel any difference with these tools like Xamarin that we work with. The only difference you might notice is the app start time, which might be a little more for Xamarin app as compared to a native app. But there are also ways to improve that thing, to improve the startup time of the app. And there's another downside that you have to wait for the SDK bindings. So you have to wait for the iOS and Android SDK bindings to be able to support new features and to be able to access new APIs. And I think that's pretty much it about cross-platform apps. Native apps basically built through native tools we have for our platform. For iOS, like we have these iOS SDKs with Xcode tools and Xcode ID. We use that to basically build apps targeting iOS platform. Similarly, for Android, we have this Android APIs and SDKs, which we use to develop Android APKs or ABs. They have best access to hardware resources. and not different than the cross-platform app, but they have instant access to the new APIs. We don't have to wait for any bindings like we have to do for cross-platform apps or cross-platform frameworks. Once new API is out, iOS or Android API, you instantly have access, and you can utilize that in your project, in your app, to basically provide new features. Load time is optimized. It's in addition to that, you also have optimized build times, as you don't have to go through any middleware or any code translations during the build when you're developing. So they have optimized build times as compared to the cross-platform apps. There are different comparison aspects that we should consider. We can also call them business needs. Different projects or different clients might have different preferences and different needs for their products. First of all, cost. For some projects, it's important to deliver something in less cost and in less time, and they probably won't care about other things like performance and the new features. For some other projects or apps, performance might be more important. And for example, the performance on native apps is way more than a progressive web app, as it has more access to the hardware resources. And for example, the CPU, in case of iOS, you have access to the neural engine. And let's say you have an app like Instagram or any other video or photo related app, which, for example, shows some filters on your faces in a live preview. Your native app will have a lot more benefit to basically access those hardware resources, the neural core from the iPhone as well as the GPU, as compared to the other app types like progressive web app or even cross-platform app. Similarly, we have the security aspect. Web apps are pretty secure. They can follow HTTPS protocol, and although the cross-platform and the native app have some other built-in device-level security features, which can be used like multi-factor authentication. We can use Face ID, Touch ID, or other type of some certificate pinning as well. There's another aspect to security. Web apps, in case of web apps, from user perspective, they are more susceptible to basically phishing attacks or any other type of attacks, as user have to basically trust the URL they are visiting. However, in case of the native or cross-platform app, user doesn't have to worry about that, as those apps usually go through the screening process from the stores themselves, and once they pass the review process, only then they can be published. So users usually don't have to worry about the security aspects in that case. However, for web apps, they have to be sure that they are visiting the correct URL and not being attacked through a phishing scam or something like that. There is another aspect that's download and installation. Progressive web apps are I think, easiest in this aspect, as they don't require any download or they don't require any installation. User just have to visit the URL and they can instantly go to your app. On the other hand, for iOS and for cross-platform and native apps, users have to download them from some store or some enterprise distribution. That is a extra step, and it can be time consuming if your app size is higher. The next aspect we have is different features that we can provide. The progressive web apps don't have much access to device level features. They do have access to this push notification feature or location services, and probably some other features as well. But the native apps have more access to hardware resources in these features, like they can build geofences and trigger features or notifications when user enters a certain geographical area, things like that. They also have access to the Bluetooth, NFC, and other sensors. Similarly, the camera, which can also be probably accessed by the progressive web apps, but not in a way that we have on cross-platform and native apps. The next aspect is offline availability. As we already discussed, there is a way to basically give offline access to your progressive web apps through this thing called service worker. You can implement caching, and you can have your app available for users even when they don't have internet connection, but still they will need internet connection at least for the first time to basically visit or download that cache on their devices. On the other hand, native apps and cross-platform apps have a lot better offline availability features. You, after downloading from the stores, you can just use many features without having to connect to internet. You can access or connect to different hardware level sensors and everything without having to go through internet. So that's about offline availability. Next aspect is access to new APIs. So progressive web apps don't usually need this thing, or they basically they don't have any access to the underlying iOS and Android APIs, which they can use or utilize to provide new features, except the browser level updates or browser features or web view features that are released with a new OS update. On the other hand, native and cross-platform apps have access to all the new APIs. We can further see how they vary between native and cross-platform in the next slide. Next aspect we have here is distribution and updates. Progressive web apps are best in this case, as you don't have to do anything on the user end. You just update your web app and your user will instantly see the new version without any need to do anything on their end. On the other end, for native and cross-platform apps, you basically do have to distribute it and get it approved by the stores first, and then once it's approved, users have to download the app, and then they can basically access the new features. So that's about distribution and update. We do have automatic updates on iOS and Android, but not all users basically use that feature, and they necessarily don't have that turned on. They won't see the update, and they will basically manually have to go to store to update the app and to access the new features that you want to distribute. Obviously, there are ways to force users to update their apps. You can implement something in your app to basically prompt or let user know that there is an update for this specific feature and you should go to store and update the app. Last aspect that we'll discuss is discoverability. Again, progressive web apps are best in this case, as they are really well integrated with Google search engine and very easily discovered through Google and other platforms. However, the iOS and Android cross-platform or native apps, they still go through stores, app stores, and discoverability for them, and optimization, or as you say, search engine optimization for them is a little different and takes more time than takes for a progressive web app. And assuming that if you already have a web app live, which has some ranking and which has some user base already, it will be a lot better for you to do a PWA for your users than a native or cross-platform app. So I went ahead and I did some research to basically rank these three different app types on these different aspects to basically come up with a weighted scoring mechanism which we can use to basically decide on the projects or for our client to see which approach they should go with. So this is, I have basically this rating from 1 to 5, 1 being incapable and 5 being very capable. And we will rate these different these three types of apps on these different aspects based on these ratings from 1 to 5. So if we consider cost efficiency or time to market, how soon we can market our new app, assuming that we already have a web app, the PWAs are highly capable, and in my opinion, I would rate it to 5. For cross-platform app, we can basically share business logic, and we can build a cross-platform UI as well. So that would be neutral. I would rate that 3. And for native apps, you will basically have to go and develop on each platform separately, and that's why we'll just rate it incapable. As in cost efficiency, it will be the least. It will be rated least. Next thing is performance. For PWAs, the web apps these days with the new technologies and frameworks are pretty fast. They are very good in terms of performance, but they don't have access to hardware resources as normal native or cross-platform apps do. Cross-platform apps have much better performance, so we'll rate them as capable, which is 4. And if we compare that to native apps, that's very capable. They basically are highest in terms of performance, as they don't have to go through any middleware framework to basically translate code while running or building, and things like that. The next aspect is security, as we discussed already, that for PWAs are pretty secure, except that the user has to basically trust the URL they are visiting, and there are some multi-factor authentication features that we have on smartphones, which PWAs cannot use today. But in the future, I think it will improve, and PWAs will also have access to those features. For cross-platform and native apps, there is no change, as they both have access to the same security features. Next aspect is download and installation. For PWAs, as we already discussed in previous slide, it's pretty simple to basically access a PWA. We can just write a URL in the browser, and we can instantly access a progressive web app. However, for cross-platform and native app, it can take time. The user has to go through some enterprise distribution or app stores, and it depends on how big the app size is. It can take for user to basically download and access the app as compared to a progressive web app. For example, this Starbucks app example I gave, you can instantly go to their website and access their PWA, but for their app, native app, you'll have to go to store, search for it, and then wait for it to download. The next aspect is features. PWAs don't have access to features that much, so we'll rate them 1. We are talking about device level features, sensors and everything we have on smartphones, and cross-platform and native apps have access to same sensors and same features, so we rate them both as 5 here. Next, for offline availability, we can basically provide offline availability for progressive web apps, but not as good as we can do on cross-platform or native apps. So we'll rate 3 for PWAs, and it's same for cross-platform and native apps, because there's no difference between those two in terms of access to offline availability features. For access to APIs, PWAs don't have much access to the new APIs released by the operating systems or by the platforms. So we'll rate them 1, and we'll rate them 4 for cross-platform, which is capable and very capable for native. Reason for this rating 4 for cross-platform is that you have to basically wait for the cross-platform technologies to build the bindings and publish the updates of their framework themselves before you can access them. For native platforms, it's instant. As soon as the APIs are out, you can basically instantly access them and start developing on them. This is improving in the last few months, improving a lot. There are frequent updates on cross-platform frameworks as well. But still, I think we should wait 4 here for the access to new APIs. For distribution and updates, as we already discussed in previous slide, progressive web apps are the best. You don't have to do anything. User can instantly access new features on the browser by visiting the same URL. For cross-platform and native apps, it's still a little tedious. I'll say it's slightly incapable here, both cross-platform and native apps, as compared to the PWAs. So we'll rate them both 2. For discoverability, PWAs are very well integrated with the search engines, with Google mainly, as they mainly target the Android app, and it's built by Google itself. So they are best in terms of discoverability, and also if you already have some online presence, already have some web app, PWAs are best basically to release a new app for smartphones. And for cross-platform and native apps, we will rate them neutral. They are not as good in terms of discoverability as we have for PWA, but they can still be, we can still do optimization on the stores level to basically publish and then increase their ranking. So we can go through some examples now. Let's say we have an app like Airbnb, and we have these different business needs, and we ask, where we basically work with a client or the stakeholder to prioritize these different aspects based on their requirements. This can be done by solution architect working with the client to basically analyze the project on different aspects and then rate or prioritize on each different aspect. So 5 being the highest priority and 1 being the lowest. So let's say we are building an app like Airbnb, which basically used to book rooms and see the listings, see the pictures on the listings, things like that. User can sign up, log in, and in terms of cost efficiency, we have the highest priority. We want it to take less time and less effort to basically build this app. Performance is also a requirement, but it's not top priority for us at the moment, and maybe we can reprioritize it in the next phase of development. But for this phase, we are saying that performance is not the top priority. Similarly, security is our priority, but it's not like we'll compromise other things and spend too much time building secure protocols and frameworks. We want this new app to be easily downloaded or installed or easily available. So the download or installation part is the most priority thing for us. For features, we want access to basic features like push notifications and maybe even device camera to upload picture or attach photos, something like that. But we can compromise on device level features or other sensors that device provided. Some multi-factor authentication things. We don't need those type of features at this first stage. So we will just prioritize that as 2. For offline availability, we can say that we don't need that in this first stage. So we'll just prioritize that as 1 lowest priority. And access to new APIs also, we don't need device level or OS level APIs for this Airbnb-like app. So we can just prioritize that as 1. For distribution updates and discoverability, it's highest priority for us, as we want our app to be out as soon as possible, and we want users to be able to discover it as soon as possible and start using it in no time. And we don't want to spend time on distributing, and even in updates, we don't want users to wait for the new feature updates. So we basically prioritized all these different aspects for this project, which is an app like Airbnb. Now we can simply use our original metrics that we had to basically use this weighted scoring mechanism. And as we had different ratings for PWA's cross-platform native apps, we can just put these values here. And after adding all these values, we can see that the native score turns out to be 105, which is the lowest. So based on our requirements, as we want our app to be more cost efficient, easily download or installable, easily discoverable, or easy updates and distribution, the native app scoring is the least 105. And if you see the cross-platform, it's slightly better than the native app, but still it's not as good as we have for the PWAs, which is 126. So based on these aspects, it's best to do this project in the first phase with the PWA. I'm still online, right? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, you are.
Yes, Kamran, we can hear
Okay,
you.
good. So for this for such project, which has basically cost efficiency as a priority, easy access or easy installation, discoverability, distribution, and updates, we discovered that based on our metrics that we created, the PWA is the best solution. By the way, this metrics that I created, it's not something a final metrics, or it won't apply to everything or all type of projects. I did some research on these different tools and technologies and ranked them based on different aspects. I read opinion from different people in the market, different industry leaders, and how they see these different technologies. This metrics, if we try to use it, we should basically first update these metrics before the evaluation itself, because these technologies change often. We get new updates for cross-platform frameworks. We get new updates for PWAs and native as well. Devices also change and improve. So these metrics should be updated or reconsidered before starting evaluation on any project or any app. So let's consider a slightly improved version of Airbnb, where we want more basically hardware features. We want it to feel like more like a native app, and we want to basically give more maybe geofencing features. We want to use more hardware sensors. We want to use all the different camera controls that hardware offers. So let's say that after discussing with the client, we have these different ratings for this improved version of the Airbnb app, or maybe it's a next phase of the app. We already did the PWA, it's live, and now we want to do the next phase. So cost efficiency is still highest priority. We also have performance security as our priority, not the top priority, but app should be highly capable on these. For download and installation, it's not our topmost priority. We are somewhat neutral on this. It can be installed like normal apps on normal smartphones do. We basically need to access new features and new APIs from the smartphone technologies, from the platforms themselves, iOS and Android. So we rate them 4 on both features as well as offline availability. We maybe want to basically, suppose we are creating some content, or let's say we are booking or requesting to book a room, and user does not have access to the internet. App should still basically complete that request locally and push it to the backend or server as soon as user gets back online. So these kind of features we require in this next phase. We also need access to the new APIs. Not the highest priority for us, but we need this access. Again, for distribution and updates, for distribution and updates, we have that as priority as well. And for discoverability, it's not that high of a priority for us. So we can just put these values in our metrics, and we can see that in this case, where our Airbnb app now needs more features, more native features. It basically needs to feel more like a native app, and it needs more hardware controls or hardware level features. PWAs don't make much sense, as they are rated least in this case, as we see. Similarly, the native app is also not the highest, as we rated the cost efficiency as our top priority. And as we know that native apps will require separate development on both iOS and Android platforms. So the overall score that we get for the native is 128, while for cross-platform apps, it's the highest, and it should be the choice in this case, where we need the app to feel more like a native app. We want to use more hardware features, but we still want it to be cost efficient. We still want the development to be cost efficient, and we still want the distribution and updates to be easy, the performance to be good, and it should be secure. So cross-platform would be the choice in this case. Let's consider last example. It's a photo or video editing app. It can also be something like Instagram, where you see live filters on your video stream. It can also basically require hardware support, GPU or other sensors to basically help you detecting faces and or other things. So cost efficiency is not the highest priority in this case, but the performance is the top priority for the client, as these video editing related features, they should feel snappy. They should be instant while user is using them. I'm sorry, let me just drink a little more water. Security is not the top priority. We'll rate that as 4 here. Download and installation, it's somewhat neutral. It should work like normal apps do, like normal iOS and Android apps, but it's not something that we want to highly improve. But we want to use the device level or platform level features as much as we can. It can be the neural core, neural engine from the iPhone device, or the similar engine from the Android device. It can be the GPU or other sensors that we need from the device to basically provide this best user experience to users while using this video editing or photo editing app, or applying these filters on a live video stream. So we rate the features as top priority. Offline availability will also be the top priority. Everything that we do should be available. Everything that we provide in the app should be available to use offline. Even if we have some online features like posting to social media or something like that, it should automatically work without user having to worry about the connectivity. Similarly, for access to new APIs, we'll rate it to our top priority 5, as we'll need access to all new iOS or Android updates and all new APIs, camera or video APIs they'll release, so we can improve the user experience and provide new features in our app based on those new API releases. Similarly, distribution updates, we want the updates and distribution to be easy and in the best way possible. For discoverability, we don't care at the moment in this phase to be best in terms of discoverability. It can be like normal apps. It can be optimized using search engine or app store or Play Store. After we complete the distribution. So let's put this in our metrics, all these values, and we see that instantly without even going to the metrics, we can assume that we can basically understand that PWAs don't make sense in this case. in this project. So, and after putting values in this matrix, we can see that PWA is rated lowest. It is 118, and cross-platform is rated higher, but not as high as we have for native. It's 151. So native app development should be the best choice for this kind of app, where we need basically access to new APIs. We basically need access to hardware features, all the device level capabilities that we can use to deliver the best experience, and the new hardware level features that iOS and Android release. They can all be accessed instantly in our development process, and we can release updates as soon as those features are out. So native in this case make the best sense, as you can see from the metrics as well. So if we talk about the future trends, progressive web apps will see a lot more adoption in 2022, as it provides easiest entry to the market with minimal effort. Basically, if you are assuming that you already have a web app and you just need a smartphone presence, PWA might be the best choice. You can just use the same web app to optimize it. You can use the service worker. You can implement the manifest to basically have the web app act as a native app, at least on Android. For iOS, it's still not that good, but users can still bookmark the PWA on iOS devices and visit that instantly from the home screens. The cross-platform frameworks are constantly improved. They are being updated frequently, basically to support new features and native APIs. And I believe for relatively simple apps, which don't require that much of a hardware level resources, and the apps like which require mostly forms or inputs from users, things like that, they should be, cross-platform frameworks should be the first choice for those apps. Maybe have different forms, or your user just needs to input, register something, or update something, or see some content. Cross-platform should be the first choice for those kind of apps. And all the other apps which require a lot more hardware resources, and like some games which require the new hardware chips that we have on iOS devices and Android devices. I think native development tools should be the best, and they will still see adoption in 2022.
Thank you so much for joining.